One of the reasons I like making the content that I do is because it gives us opportunities to focus on different avenues of conversation. For example, the post-game videos. These are usually just nonsensical, stream of consciousness-like things. They don't get too many views compared to all the other normal videos, but I have been making post-game Vancouver Canucks rants, analyses, commentaries, discussions, free-flowing state-of-mind thoughts just spewing out there onto this microphone. We've been making these kinds of videos for years, and I think they are one of the staples of the channel. Whenever I see people in real life who come up to me and ask me about the YouTube channel, or they talk to me about the channel, they always say, hey, I always gotta tune into the post-game. And that means a lot to me. This video from last night is just my stream of consciousness after the Canucks played a terrible game against Boston. This video, though, is talking about some of the commentary we had seen from Canucks people after the loss. Now, there are going to be a lot more other things we can talk about with Vancouver. In fact, I kind of want to make another commentary about Elias Pettersson and JT Miller later this afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. But we're going to go over two interviews done immediately after this Canucks and Boston game. Firstly, you had yourselves Rick Tocchet's post-game presser, and you also had Jim Rutherford on After Hours on CBC talking about not just the game in particular, a lot of other things amongst, the grand scope of hockey. That's kind of how After Hours usually runs, but he did have some interesting comments about the team post-game against Boston. So, firstly, let's head over to a comment that Rick Tocchet made, a very damning comment that he had spoken about after the Canucks and Bruins game. He says that we have 3, 4, or 5 guys who are struggling to get emotionally invested in the game. And the interesting thing about this quote is that you have a bunch of people in the replies, hey, you're the coach, get them invested, it's your job to put people in that mindset to force plays to happen. We've got people calling out players. Besser, Joshua, Höglander, Petey Meyer, Susie, Sherwood, Juleson, definitely more than 5. I mean, there are going to be people going out there and replying, hey, Sherwood is fine. He has a tiny contract. I put him there because I haven't noticed him the past 2 to 3 weeks. What do you mean? The guy has multiple hits per game. There are a whole bunch of other replies here too. I'm struggling to get emotionally invested into the game as well. And this was expanded upon even further by the Vancouver Canucks News Summaries Blue Sky account. I was about to say Twitter account. No, this is their Blue Sky account. They went out there and posted the scoop, Rick Tocchet's post-game comments, first period struggles, defensive pairings, not executing the strategy. These are some really interesting ideas which we're going to highlight here. Not executing the strategy. Tocchet said that the Vancouver Canucks designed a play to use against the Bruins, and they didn't do the play until the 3rd. It pisses the staff off because they had a good game plan, but when you chase the game, the puck becomes a hot potato. The team doesn't have to dump the puck in or throw it off the glass. There were 10, 12-foot passes available, and instead, they were flipping pucks. Some guys really tried tonight, so Tocchet says he can't throw everybody under the bus. Some guys did work really hard. There also were some extra thoughts about Demko, and then Sasson, Hughes, the forward lines, how they're playing at home. He didn't understand why they played that way in the first period, which was bad. Terrible first period out of the Vancouver Canucks. The forward had the puck with 5 feet of ice to take it and make a play, but instead dumped it in. Tocchet said he's not sure if it's because they had a day off and there are some guys who were sick, but they need to figure this out quickly. The guys are tense at home. For some reason, they seem more relaxed on the road. Tocchet also spoke about the power play, saying that it did indeed go rogue. When things don't go their way, the unit becomes, and this is a key word, individuals. Okay, that is not great. The power play has been pretty good the past 2 to 3 weeks, but because they were down 3-0, they reverted to being individuals. There also was that same commentary about player effort. 4 to 5 guys are struggling to get emotionally invested in the game. These guys need to understand it's the NHL and you have to be jacked up and emotionally in the game. Frustration is also talked about here. Tocchet is sure a couple of coaches are frustrated because they had a game plan and the guys didn't execute. As a coach, you get pissed about it. This group, though, bounces back. There were plays to be made, but they were just too tense. And to expand on this even more, let's go out there and read some of the comments from the R Canucks thread responding to some of these ideas posted by Vancouver Canucks news summaries. A few things that jumped out: some guys tried, guys are tense at home. Guys not following the game plan is becoming a common theme now too. Tocchet wants them to hold on to the puck and make plays, and they just aren't. That's the thing that took me by surprise. These freaking Reddit comments were saying Tocchet is getting them to dump and chase, and it's getting so tiring. And I started to believe it too. Except the style is dump it in, which is why our players default to it so much. Tocchet is calling out specific instances where he thought there would be an opening to make a play, but these are exceptions, not the rule. When the MO is dump the puck in and play a low-risk style, you can't blame the players for playing that way. It's like saying you want players to do A, but in this specific situation to do B. It doesn't work that way. And this is why hockey is such a nuanced game, right? Like, even though the MO is in general to dump it in, if there are plays to be made, you can't just dump it in. You need to be aware of these things, and some of the players have been lacking a lot of that oomph to really progress forward. Good on him for mentioning Demko. What else is there? People should watch this post-game. There's clearly some issues between the coaching staff and some key players, it seems like. Yeah, in the video, if you actually watch it, he doesn't look all too happy, which is obvious to see why. I mean, the team just lost a pretty bad game to Boston, but body language really does play a part of it as well, and it's something of note here too. Everyone has to buy into the system, otherwise you'll get this very inconsistent play that we are seeing this season. The coaches haven't gotten everyone on board yet. I don't really know why, and the coaches don't either. This is an eye-opener. It didn't cross my mind that there's an issue that the players aren't even seeing what the coaching staff wants them to do. It's one thing to try and make mistakes, but right now there's no complete buy-in. And speaking about the Vancouver Canucks players not going out there and executing what is expected out of them, how they're not playing the plays that the coaching staff has lined up for them, how they're not executing until the third period, how the power play is becoming a whole bunch of individualists going out there and trying to do everything themselves. Let's go out there and read the one comment that was published by Jason Bruff on Twitter that got a lot of people interested in what the Canucks plan to do later. This is what Rutherford said on After Hours: "We need to add a couple of players to really give ourselves a chance to contend." And you can see the replies here. The Canucks are not contenders. Oh, say goodbye to picks and prospects. That means moving players out. And 11.6 would be at the top of my list. Okay, we're not going to continue on that train of thought. But there were some really interesting responses to this Rutherford comment too. This is a pretty big statement because all along most fans are only expecting one top 4 defenseman, but it looks like Rutherford sees more holes. The more interesting tidbit about this comment is the fact that this is confirmation that the Canucks are going all in and trying to win it, ideally before Quinn Hughes needs a bigger contract. Now, some replies are saying, hey, it actually means the opposite. Rutherford is saying he doesn't think this team is constructed as a contender. No, if that's what he believes, he wouldn't use the verb add a couple of players to contend. He would just say we're far from contenders. If he doesn't think that this team is constructed as a contender, then he failed to do his job. Because who constructed it? Him and Alvin. You don't make trades, sign DeBrusk, and go up against the cap and then admit your team isn't made to win. And so, with this train of thought, it actually does conclude pretty nicely here that Rutherford is saying, hey, the team needs to add pieces, we're going to go all in, this is our goal, this is our window, we are doing it now. We need to add a couple of players. And so, with this in mind, are the Canucks going to go out there and add? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We will cap this video off there. Thoughts in the comments about all these Canucks news and notes from Rick Tocchet, Jim Rutherford, and others. We'll talk more about Pettersson and Miller later in today's show. But for now, comment section is your floor. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.